What's up, YouTube? Well, they did it. They came out and they announced what the next class is going to be on Darktide. And it is not what most people thought it was going to be. Most people thought that the upcoming class was going to be some sort of Adeptus Mechanicus thing, or like a tech priest, or some kind of Scutari cyborg warrior, or even like some sort of like combat servitor. What we didn't expect was to have a gang member, some kind of gang member, some sort of like hive ganger. Now, this decision actually does make sense because Atoma is a hive city, meaning that there's multiple layers below ground where there is a large population of warring gangs happening, and that's actually the setting for one of their more successful tabletop skirmish games, Necromunda. So basically, you have these Necromunda-esque gang members that possibly have been fighting off this Nurgle infestation the entire time. And maybe they're just now breaking through to be contacting the Morning Star that's in orbit.
And
But it just feels weird. Also, we can't really call them the Necromunda gangers because apparently this announcement was pushed back an entire week because they had to redo a lot of the graphics and the announcement material because apparently they didn't have the rights to reference Necromunda. So they had to rewrite a lot of their things and just pushed it back a week instead. So I guess in their licensing debates and talks with Games Workshop, they didn't secure the rights to use those properties, to even mention those things. But I get it. You got to control your IP. You got to make sure that it's represented the right way. You can't have this talk about that, whatever. All right. I'm not a, business lawyer dude, but I wanted to sit down and talk with you guys about my thoughts because they did put out a design and talent dev blog going over some of the things, explaining the thought process behind them. So I kind of glanced at them a little bit when I was live on stream last night, but I just want to go over it again here in detail. So basically, this class, like it says here, is going to be expert at fast-paced, frenzied gameplay. Several new and unique things to the table, blah, 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 blah. True dual wielding, both in close combat with twin shivs and at range with twin wielded stub and auto pistols. Okay, so you're running up with two knives and you're stabbing, slicing, whatever. So it's not going to be like you can equip, a knife, like a combat blade and an axe that you already had. Two one-handed weapons. It'll be a set weapon. So it'll be just one item that is a pair of shivs or a pair of guns. Okay, that's pretty cool. Makes sense, right? They also have crowbars and bone saws, heavier weapons that are unique to this gang member. Okay, kind of cool. I mean, it makes sense. They're not using like high-tech weapons or, specialty made for combat items. They're having to repurpose things and tools that they have access to down in the hives. Now, when they join the rest of the crew on the Morning Star, they would have access. So they will get access to the existing weapons, combat axes, swords, stuff like that. As for which weapons, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Probably not like power swords, but then why would you use one weapon if you could have a pair of weapons? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay, they're going to have new faces, tattoos, hairstyles, got it. So they're going to have gang member cosmetics. I mean, this really didn't need to be, stated this way. We understand that the new class will have its own look. Good job, guys. Thanks. Stating the obvious. It releases 2nd of December, so 2 weeks from when I'm recording this. But today we'll dive into the design and talents of the class. Finally, some actual meat and potatoes kind of content. And this is kind of what I was waiting to see before I made any kind of quick judgments, before I came out and said, oh, this is trash, or this isn't what we wanted. So the class design, the Zealot is an aggressive melee character, but we don't necessarily have an overly aggressive ranged character that, hovers in close range almost where other classes would opt into using a melee weapon. That's true. I mean, you kind of do in the sense that you have a few classes that use shotguns and you have the Ogren that has the Ripper gun. I guess this is going to be filling some sort of niche in that regard. I mean, if I was going to play an aggressive close range character, I would play the Ogryn. I don't know what this class would bring that the Ogryn wouldn't bring, but I guess we'll have to see. It does bring its own unique flavor, I suppose. I mean, people would probably not want to play as an Ogryn because they are big and bulky, and maybe this is going to be like a faster, more agile shooting class. Being, within arm's reach of someone and then shooting them with guns, just take a step forward and hit them with a knife. I don't know. I don't know. So they explored some concepts and ideas, landing on the Hive Scum as an ideal candidate. I I would have gone with like a combat servitor. That would have been awesome. Give us some cool like Mechanicus voice lines like engaging destruction mode or something like that. That'd be kind of fun, right? But I'm not a game designer. I just play a lot of games. It's like I don't need to block. I don't need to be big and strong because I'm fast and precise. Okay. So this is like a character that has survived by the skin of their teeth because they are just that good in a fight. And that really is kind of down to the crux of what makes these hive gangers so dangerous because they are born into a hyper violent society of constant gang warfare. So the more you survive, the more you fight, the more you kill, the deadlier you are. So these would be pretty good candidates to fight back against the forces of chaos that try to infect the hive. So here's some mechanics. One of them is Chem Toxin. It's a new mechanic coming to Darktide, similar to Burn or Bleed. This homebrew toxin is its own damage over time effect, which the Hive Scum can apply through various ways. That's great. I myself am a big fan of applying effects to enemies and watching them die slowly. Burns, bleeds, all that things. I like watching the counters build and then their life just goes chunk, 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 and they're dead. It tickles me a certain way and it makes me happy. So this might be my new favorite class. Maybe. We'll see. It says it's quite potent and multiple applications can stack up to it until a certain limit. Certain talents also interact with the chem toxin by triggering effects when applying it and things of that nature. More on that further down. Great. I want to see more about this. Already I'm intrigued. I was disappointed it wasn't AdMech or something else, but now I'm intrigued. Let's continue. A new mechanic, unique is the stim lab, able to get some materials and make their own custom stims called the Cartel Special. So you get 1 point to spend every level picking different bonuses to add to your Cartel Special, and you can make them custom. Unable to use any stims found in the mission. So this is your stim. It says mechanic is optional. By not selecting any upgrades in Stim Lab, your Hive Scum will be able to use normal stims, and it will recharge on its own. Okay. Cooldown dependent. So you get a rechargeable stim, but that's your only stim. Okay. So you can't like pick up one you find and then give a teammate your custom stim. But you don't have to do that. You can just use the stims you find. It seems like this could be pretty strong. So I'd have to see why you wouldn't want to use your custom stim. All right, the 3 archetypes. The talent tree allows you to mix and match talents to make your own custom builds. And there were 3 underlying archetypes. Not official names. We'll call them Gunslinger, Ruffian, and Chemist. All right. So first archetype is Gunslinger. Overwhelming close range firepower and nimble dodging. A true run and gun playstyle. Again, this is going to be interesting to see, but I feel like it just seems to me that if you're that close, that you're in danger of them just closing that, small distance and hitting you. So then you're still in their face shooting them. Why not just pull out your melee weapon? I don't know. It just seems like it's it sounds like melee with extra steps. I don't know. The coherency aura, blitz, and combat abilities are all based on the ones from the Gunslinger. In your face increases range damage at close range, which is further increased for a short while after reloading. So I want to know if this is specific to any weapon you're using close range, because this can go really great with shotguns. First thought in my head was shotguns already have great close range damage that you can build into them. You throw this perk on top of that, amazing, right? So I'm thinking like the double barrel super shotgun, and then we have like the wind, dramatically increased sprint dodge angle, and can sprint dodge even without stamina. Sprint dodge angle. Interesting. Interesting choice of words there. But being able to sprint dodge even without stamina, that's huge because my other concern when I was reading about the class was it sounds like they want to be very dodge heavy. So that means you're going to have to stack bonus stamina on all your curios, which really limits your building on this class. But apparently, you can even dodge without stamina. Great. That is really good. The coherency aura Gunslinger right here says when an ammo pickup is collected by you or your allies in coherency, everyone else in the coherency also replenishes a small amount of ammo. That's huge. So instead of being like, oh, I needed ammo, the so and so picked it up instead. Damn it, I needed that. Now everyone gets some. That's really cool. So that means the Ogren doesn't have to fight the veteran for ammo if he's being the big gun lugger build. That's really good. I love seeing perks like that where they're very, very thought through because you're giving us this class that wants to shoot a lot. Obviously, ammo is a finite resource. So this helps make it not hurt as much. Base Blitz is Blinder, an extremely quick throw blinding grenade, which staggers enemies. This enables the Hive Scum to close the gap and get into their preferred range with very little effort, regardless of what gun lines the heretics have aiming your way. This is interesting. We haven't seen a blind grenade before. We have a stun grenade from the Zealot. So it's a stagger blind. So they're staggered, so they're not shooting. I'm guessing that the blind effect lasts a little bit of time after the stagger wears off. Otherwise, what's the point? So this could be really good. They say it's to use to close the gap, but I could also see it as a way to have people in the back shooting. You huck that grenade over there, give them something to worry about, blind them for a while you mop up the enemies in your face, and then you can circle around and kill them. It's pretty unique. I would like to see what kind of upgrades you can get with that. Maybe it's a blind grenade that does damage over time. It's a blind grenade where the effects last longer. A blind grenade that also applies that toxin effect that we talked about earlier. That could go any number of ways. It's a blind grenade, but it also burns them. Something like that, like blind grenade plus ... The base combat ability is called Desperado. Immediately swap to and reload your ranged weapon, entering Desperado for a few seconds. During Desperado, the Hive Scum is immune to range attacks, sprinting costs no stamina, and reloading does not reduce your ammo reserve. There's a lot going on here. So, immune to range attacks, that's pretty big. Imagine you're in a room full of snipers and you can just be like, well, there's no way to cross the room without eating a couple of those shots. There you go, Desperado mode, boom. You sprint in there, which is free, no stamina, and you can close in that distance and take them out. Also, reloading does not reduce your ammo reserve. So you're going to want to stack up a lot of weapons that have like smaller magazines but more damage. There you go. Yeah, I'm into it. Again, this is favoring a lot of weapons like, shotguns or something like that, or rapid fire machine pistols, something like that. I would like to see, like I said, some more of those supporting perks, and what would they do to that as well? My brain is thinking about how you could make that better, like give it like a better chance to crit. Oh, right there, it says right there. I was saying extend the duration. Close range kills extend the duration. That's already built in. Great. This would actually be a really good ability. All right, the keystone is called Vulture's Mark. Killing specials or elites with a ranged weapon gives you stacks of Vulture's Mark, which improves range damage, range crit chance, and movement speed. At max stacks, range specials and elite kills restore toughness for you and allies in coherency. Cool. It's one of those amazing killing perks where if you're killing things, you're doing great. Um, that's really good. The downside is when you get those tougher enemies that are harder to guarantee those kills on. So maybe this class would have a lot of perks to where you'll get bonus damage versus elites and specials. Or the thing I'm worried about is armor piercing, because a lot of these tougher enemies have armor. So you're shooting all these bullets, right? You've got all these rapid fire close range weapons. Who cares if if you can't kill the target, if it's just bouncing off the armor. So you need something to punch through. So that's the kind of thing I'd be looking for in this build. Like, yeah, you're really good at shooting things. You gotta also kill the stuff when you shoot it. Moving along, we're going on to the next archetype called the Ruffian. All right, a melee focused archetype that goes all in on aggression, still relying heavily on mobility and dodging to survive. Now, when I first read this, I was thinking, well, what is this class going to do that the Zealot doesn't do already? The Zealot is already very aggressive and very agile and dodges a lot. So I'm going to hold on. I'm going to wait and see what they say. Two talents they're showing us are Nimble, where dodges move farther and last longer. So bigger, better dodges. We like that. And Hyperviolence, where upon a melee kill, gain bonus melee damage based on amount of overkill damage. I don't think we have other talents that specify a bonus based on overkill, because I'm the kind of player that gets the big heavy hits because it gives my brain serotonin. So I do thunder hammers and big huge swords and stuff like that. And oftentimes you swing a big enemy into a crowd and you're hitting 3 or 4 or 5 enemies, but it's just massive overkill, especially on those fodder enemies. So you get that big hit and it's overkill, and you're like, great, I did 800 damage, 600 damage too much. Now you get a bonus based on that. So that's going to really help out when you're fighting a lot of, you're fighting a lot of the infected enemies when like a horde runs in and then you're charged up, and then here come, some crushers or something like that. You turn around and you're juiced up on your overkill damage. I love the idea of that. Okay, their aura ability is just Ruffian for now. It's a placeholder name. Increase melee damage for you and your allies in coherency. So increased melee damage, that's the same one that the Ogren has, right? But we don't know the percentage. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I would hope that stacks with an Ogren. I don't see why it wouldn't. They're different auras. And the Blitz is called the Boom Bringer, a high-powered missile launcher. What else is there to say? For when you really want something dead. Now, this I had a little mini rant about this when I read about it on stream last night. It seems like the Blitz for the Ruffian tree and this other Blitz for the Gunslinger tree are swapped. Let me explain. So on the Gunslinger, it's all about shooting, right? So then you would think that the Blitz would be a shooting thing, the rocket launcher, right? And then the Ruffian is all about melee damage and being able to close with the enemy and not be shot while they're doing it. Okay, so they have longer dodges and stuff like that. But then a blind grenade would be really good at doing that. The blinder, it says, enables the Hive Scum to close the gap and get into the preferred range with very little effort. So you would want to give the blind grenade to the melee gang member, and you want to give the rocket launcher to the shooty gang member. And I know that you could probably swap them as you're going down the skill tree. That makes sense, but it just feels like they're in the wrong locations to me. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you're all about melee damage. Guess what your ability is? A rocket launcher. Uh, what? So, I don't know. The good news is that I'm thinking that any damage you do with the missile launcher is gonna give you the hyper violence stacks. Except that that's bonus melee damage on overkill. I guess we'll just have to experiment and find out. I mean, we have 2 weeks before we can figure this out, right? Moving on. Combat ability, Rampage. Okay, so they wanted a rage ability. I like that. I like a good rage ability, right? Enter Rampage for a few seconds, gaining vastly increased melee power, attack speed, damage reduction, and becoming immune to stuns and suppression. Good, because the Gunslinger already has their ability, which makes them immune to incoming shooting. So they already have a way to close with enemies. They don't need that blinder grenade, right? This allows the melee class to close in if they use their ability. So that is actually pretty cool. And I want to see also what kind of perks will be in here to support this. Like, I'm betting that the Boombringer is going to have different perks, like it's a incendiary missile, or it fires like a cluster missile, or um, it's a missile shell that's been packed with like a bunch of scrap metal. So when it hits, a bunch of shrapnel goes out and makes everyone bleed. That'd be kind of cool. And maybe for the rampage, you do an increased melee damage. Maybe if you take a stim when you're berserk, it's magnified. Something that would really feed into the whole berserk rampager thing. Also, melee attacks extend duration. The way that kills extended the duration for the gunslinger tree. That's good too. So you want to keep it going. The effect is diminished after 30 seconds. So you can't just be rampaging forever, which, I'm sure in some games you probably could keep that going for a long time. But exiting rampage gives you exhaustion for a while. That is true for just about every other kind of like rage type ability, like from Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons. So that kind of makes sense. In that case, hopefully everything that you're fighting is dead because you were going berserker on them. And their keystone is Adrenaline Frenzy, a very aggressive keystone that encourages relentless brawling. Melee hits grant stacks of adrenaline, which are lost over time when not attacking. At max stacks, lose all stacks and gain a frenzy, increasing attack speed and melee damage for a few seconds. I like this. It's very simple. It's direct. It's to the point. You hit things until you stack up, and then you go frenzy mode. That sounds like a lot of fun. The downside is that you're going to have teammates that are hitting the same things you're trying to hit, and you're like, I need to hit things to get my frenzy, and everything around me is dead. Thanks, team. The third tree, which is the one that I'm looking forward to the most, is called Chemist. A bigger focus on unique stim and toxin mechanics, gaining bonuses related to stims, cartel stims or the stim lab or normal stims, applying chem toxin through various methods, including weapons. And here's some examples. Blessed stims, when stimmed, killing blows clear some corruption. That's kind of neat. So some classes have a way to clear corruption. This is theirs. That's kind of, but it's only while stimmed, which sounds bad at first, but remember that their homebrew cartel lab stims do regenerate over time. There's probably going to be some perks that help with the cooldown speed, so it's not so painful. There's targeted toxin. Enemies infected with your chem toxin deal less damage. Increased effect on monsters. So this is going to be their big debuff. So you got yourself a plague ogre, you've got yourself something big and nasty coming at you. Boom, you poison it. Suddenly, they're on a different planet. They're hallucinating. They're not dealing as much damage. Pretty cool. I like a good debuff. I like a good damage over time. You put those two things together, I'm happy. So I'm all about it. Right now, my favorite so far seems to be the Chemist. Moving on. Coherency Aura. Anarchist. Increased crit chance for you and allies. That's pretty cool. I believe, is it the Zealot that already has increased crit chance? I think it's the Zealot has the crit chance aura. So you get those two together, boom, lots of crit. Another Blitz is going to be a Chem Grenade. So Chem Grenade, throw a canister containing chem toxin, which breaks open and spills its contents across the open area when it explodes. Any enemy that enters the lingering toxic cloud will be affected with stacks of chem toxin. I would like to see what kind of perks we have to enhance that. I want to see a lingering cloud that lasts longer. I want to see a cloud where the area is increased, like 50%. I want to see uh, enemies take a bigger debuff. I want to see they do more damage. I want to see them where the damage effect can spread to enemies not in the cloud. Stuff like that. I want to see friendly units in that cloud get a buff, where they get a whiff of that and they're like, oh, that's the good stuff, and they're doing more damage. Something like that. So far, this seems really interesting. It's not going to be super overpowered, but it's going to be really interesting to use. It'll be a really good tool for clearing groups of enemies, for debuffing big enemies, and just for, spreading good times around with some chems. It sounds pretty cool. Their combat ability is Stim Supply. The Hive Scum has repurposed military gadgets to come up with customized medical crates that can be placed down on the ground. This is a supportive ability that grants nearby allies the effects of the Hive Scum's cartel special stim. Here we go. So this allows you to brew up a really good cartel special stim, and instead of only being able to use it on yourself if you're the other two archetypes, this class archetype is able to share it with the teammates in an area. That's pretty cool. I like that. And their keystone, chemical dependency. While the stim lab allows you to craft the perfect stim to suit your playstyle, the more potent cartel special stims will have a longer cooldown. This keystone is not so much about the perfect stim, but about taking as many stims as you can, as fast as you can. So, couple of things to point out here. They do mention that the more special effects and the more stronger effects of your custom stims will have a longer cooldown. Okay, makes sense. This, when using a stim, special or otherwise, you grant a stack of dependency for a long duration. Each stack grants ability cooldown reduction up to a limit. So you can constantly be taking your stims as long as you're taking your stims. That's really cool. I like that. So far, I would love to see more about the chemist, and it sounds really fun. And then there's a bit about like how fun was it working on it, and here's the links to the store pages. And I think it's going to be $12 for the bit for this version and 20 for this version. It was the same for the last one. Now, people had a fit about the last one, but you know what? A lot of folks bought it anyways. So this is going to be no difference. I guarantee it's going to be fine. If you go to any of the community pages, there's going to be a lot of whining and crying about this isn't what we wanted. I'm not buying it. It's garbage. You know what? You don't have to. It's fine. I'll buy it. Whatever. I like to play games to have fun. So my thoughts overall is that I'm a little disappointed that it's not what we all thought was going to be, which was some sort of Mechanicus thing. I am curious to see the dual wielding. I want to see what kinds of weapons they have access to that aren't, specialty Hive gang weapons. And I want to see the details of the cartel special and how you can brew your own stims. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think this is going to be the mechanic that really makes or breaks the class. Because we already have up close melee person, we already have up close shooty characters. The cartel special is going to bring them further. It's going to really enhance them to the point where it makes them special and desirable to bring on the team. Which of the three archetypes do I like? It's going to be the chemist. I want to see what the chemist does. I'm always drawn to the weird choices, to those off choices. So I want to say that the chemist is going to be my favorite, but I'm probably going to go back to just being a ruffian and just going in all out on big heavy hits and dismantling enemies from their limbs and taking 5 enemies and making 8 piles on the ground of them. That's just my typical playstyle, is just to go in and just go ham on stuff. That's the video for now. I just wanted to talk about the upcoming Darktide stuff. Check back in for me when it goes live December 2nd, and I'll be playing it on my stream. Are you watching my streams on Twitch? You should. You really should. So go here for my Twitch stuff, and I will see you on there. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps out in the long run, guys. Thank you so much for your support, and I will catch you next time.
End of the day, let's glide away. Be cool, take it easy, that's the chill way. Cool peace says good night. Dreams take flight.